Well, the Buckeye football season's upon us, and we're going to break things down with our fellas, Dave Holmes and Adam King, 10 TV, along with Tyvis Powell, the MVP of the national title game. You hear him on 97.1 The Fan, along with Tim May, 97.1 The Fan, and Letterman Rowe. He always points to himself.
He should have done the Tigers.
Yeah, he already did it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, last year Ryan Day said that he was maybe going to give up the play calling and free himself up to maybe get more involved with the team, definitely get more involved with the team. Tyvis, what does that mean to you? And does he say get more involved? Is he going to get more involved? How?
Well, I think that when you're a play caller, you fall victim to looking at that sheet. You know, you're not feeling the pulse of this team or the vibe of your team because you're so worried about calling the right play, looking at the defense out there and making sure that your quarterback gets the right call and we're in the right offense. So when you give that duty up, you have some input. You can see it, but you can see that your defense coming off the field and you can see the conversations. You can hear things. You can take the headset off and hear the conversations around you and feel the vibe and the momentum of the team. And if it's not good, you can nip it in the bud and address it right then and there, rather than just waiting to halftime or rather waiting to another coach to step up and fill that void for you.
Yeah, and we watched him in the spring and in first few practices this year. Yeah, I think he's getting a kick out of wandering the field, so to speak, and getting a feel not just for his offense like you're talking, because he's definitely going to be involved with the offense. It would be stupid for him not to be one of the great offensive minds out there in college football. But he wants to know when I'm having trouble with this defense, for example, last year. What is what am I really looking at? What should I say my trouble is? He's going to be much more of an expert, perhaps, and I make this confronting. It sounds like a really getting after it kind of deal. But when he addresses Jim Knowles with concerns, he's going to be coming at it more from a knowledge standpoint as opposed to just an educated fan who just doesn't like what he's seeing out there. Fix it.
All right, Dave. He has a new offensive coordinator in Brian Hartline. Does Hartline call the plays this year? And I want to preface this because we talked to Ryan about this the other day. Ryan's going to be in the offensive meetings. He's going to be in the game planning. And on Saturdays, I believe he's still going to have his headset on.
Yeah, well, shout out to the Stark County boys. I would trust any Stark County guy to run my offense. What's up, Brian? So will he call the plays? I don't necessarily think he will, and I don't necessarily think he should, because if I look at what's been the issue with this team the last few years, it's not an offense that finishes in the top three every single time. That said, you can still give him an increased role. I still think the CEO should make all the big decisions, and maybe plays are those, but you don't make the PowerPoints, right? So let Brian Hartline be more active, let him be maybe more involved in the game planning to take a load off your plate so you can focus a little more on defense. But if Ryan Day was brought here to be an offensive genius, and he's proven to be such, I don't know how much I want to take that away from him. So I want more Hartline, not necessarily a whole lot less Day.
Well, I think that those two will be together, and they'll come up with the play sheet.
Sure.
Okay?
It's a collaboration.
I think at the end of the day, his input is on that play sheet.
Yeah.
He's going to let Brian Hartline make
the call that he was involved in.
Yeah.
Adam, can you imagine a scenario on game day where Ryan Day is kind of, I mean, he's going to be, he said as much.
He's going to be Ryan Day. I mean, here's the interesting thing. The only reason that this conversation existed was because of the Michigan game. The second the Michigan game happened, in Ohio State, that was the first time we really saw them struggle on offense. They struggled on offense against Maryland a little bit, and everybody said Ryan needs to focus less on the play callings. And then you know what he did? He went out and dropped, 44 on the best defense in the country? I mean, 41. Math is hard.
Would have been big if they had 44. Would have been big, yeah.
That would have changed a lot of things.
I think when you look at that, of course he needs to be the play caller. And I think you're exactly right. Brian Hartline can have an elevated role, and we can all sit here and pretend like it matters that he has an elevated role. They would give him the title of chancellor of the entire university just to keep his wide receivers. Zone 6. We'll call you whatever you want.
And as Ryan said to us, this month, play calling on an offensive coordinator's plate is about number 3 or number 4 because they sit in these meetings. They come up with the play sheet, the whole coaches do. And basically the offensive coordinator's job is to coordinate, meaning gather everyone's ideas, kind of collate things into what you want to do, what you want to be known as an offense, et cetera, going ahead from one game to the next. That doesn't mean the head coach, no head coach I've ever known has just sort of stepped over on the side and said, I'm never calling another play. I'm not going to get involved at all.
That's true.
Like, I can name you 100 of them. When it push comes to shove, Ryan Day is going to be part of that decision. But the flip side of it is you got to have trust in Brian Hartline to just be that guy to call the plays.
Why do you think Hartline could be a good play caller?
Well, because I think you could be a good play caller. If I've got all these great players.
Slow it down.
Brian Hartline is going to be a great play caller because, like he's saying, you got Ryan Day, you got Joe Philbin there, and on top of everything,
you got all this talent.
You got a play sheet, right?
got Marvin Harrison Jr.
So for anybody that's never seen a play sheet, so what it is it has the down and distance, and it has the plays that fit this whatever the situation is. If it's 3rd and 8, this is what we're gonna run. If it's 3rd, 6 through 12. This is what you can run. All you have to do is go out there. I ain't gonna say all you gotta do because it is difficult. You gotta go out there, see what defense they're in, and make the call off of your sheet. Which Ryan Day,
are you saying that
Ryan Day is putting the sheet together? So it's there. The answer is right there. You just gotta pick the right one.
It's like
multiple choice.
It's like a Chinese restaurant menu. You got poultry, seafood, and beef, and then you got appetizers, and you got these other things you can order. I mean, it's almost not throwing darts because they do. As a game develops, you realize who you've got mismatches against and things like that. And that's why, like you just said, Ryan, they can watch the game now and maybe even pay more attention to those kind of things and suggest plays. Believe me, if he suggests a play,
he ain't gonna suggest it.
Brian's going to call it.
He going to call the play.
And he's from Stark County. We keep overlooking that.
Next Ryan Day presser, I want you to say to him, Ryan, is calling plays the easiest part of your job? We hear it's like reading a menu.
Well, he already said it was like number 3 or number 4 on the bottom on the list, so that question's already been answered.
Yeah.
Dave, Ryan has always worked with the quarterbacks, and he kind of alluded in the interview the other day, that's not changing. He still needs to have a relationship with the quarterback.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of this, and I think Adam's right, a lot of it was because of what happened after the Michigan game, and they were looking whatever. But the guy's the quarterback whisperer.
He is. Yeah. There are 2 coaches that you don't question when it comes to quarterbacks, Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day. I mean, their track record is second to none. You go there, you get developed, you become a first-round pick. So until he stops producing first-round picks or win a Heisman.
Or a Heisman ceremony.
Yeah, certainly, at least getting to New York City. So to me, he doesn't need to take his hands off the wheel here at all. I mean, this is not Hartline take the wheel. It's just, elevate the role a little bit. And like we said, I think it'll be fine.
You know what's funny? I asked Cal McCord the other day, you've got Todd Fitch sitting there, you've got Corey Dennis, the quarterback's coach, you got Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator, and you got Ryan Day. Who do you listen to the most? Because they're all going to have input, And he kind of basically said, it does finally come down to Ryan Day because he's the one who's going to make the decision on who the head coach is. But there's a lot of help there for whoever does become the starting quarterback, but it begins with Ryan Day.
Ryan Day, one other thing I wanted to ask you guys before we break on this subject. If he does free up some time, and I've often said he's got a great defensive mind. Everyone talks about he's offensive genius. Well, he spends every day scheming against the best defenses in the country. Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't? He knows defense inside and out, how to beat them. Does he get more involved with the defense with Coach Knowles this year? And because obviously that was the bugaboo the last 2 games last season.
Yeah, I mean, I asked him. That was the last question I asked him after the loss to Georgia there in that big press conference. Was how disappointed finally in the final analysis you give up these big plays again. And he was quite disappointed because they scored 41 points against basically what people thought was maybe the best defense in the country. And then in the end, the fourth quarter, they couldn't get it done. They couldn't hang on. I really think this move is as much to get more involved as the whole head coach aspect, meaning, like I said earlier, being able to talk expertly to Jim Knowles and those guys about what he likes and doesn't like, what he's seeing from the defense, and then he'll go from there. He's definitely playing this by ear as this season goes. But he knew, you can look back the last several years, what's been missing from this team to put it over the top has been that just pure knockdown, drag-out defense. Not that anybody can play that kind of defense anymore with the current rules, but he knows that's what's been missing, right, Tyvis?
Yeah, I mean, listen, 2019 was the last great defense
Yeah.
they had. If they had a good defense for the past few years, we'd be national champions.
All right, guys, great stuff. Keep it on 10 TV, 97.1 The Fan, the home of the Buckeyes, for all your Buckeye football coverage needs.